no good news, David. It's only bad news and irrelevant news.
Every cloud.
Odds on. Well, we got odds on. We're going to the end. Season's already ended, and season won't start until the end of Feb, which is actually sooner than I thought it would be, but still pretty long. So I've had to find something to fill my time between now and then, and I was going to do like a report card thing for like different people, but I thought I don't want to look back on the season we've just had too much. There will be a line in the sand. We're already pretty close to it, right? Where it's not going to be interesting or funny to even about things that were already funny to talk about last season, and once you cross that line, it's all going to be about looking forward, you know. And in terms of looking forward, I can't really do too much until we're like right on the cusp of it, and I can give like predictions and stuff. I'm not someone who's going to be like, oh, this news just dropped about Ferrari's engine and chassis department and what they're going to be doing for the new season, because I don't get any of that stuff. I don't understand cars or even like them that much, but I like, you know, the races. So I guess this isn't anything particularly new or crazy. Well, it's basically just the new segment until basically March, which is Cloud Wine. Hopefully a jingle will be made. Probably not playing now, but maybe it did at the beginning. I don't know. Something. Maybe there's things on screen right now that represent clouds. I don't know what Future Me did. Hopefully it was presentable. But it's called Cloud Wine. Wine as in WHINE. Kind of like good news, bad news, whatever's been thrown up in the Formula 1. 'Cause that's the kind of good thing about Formula 1 is drama and news happens whether the races are on or not. It's just what the sport's like. It spawns that kind of stuff, and there has been a lot of it already, right? And it's called Cloud Wine because typically it's Cloud 9. You're on Cloud 9, good stuff. Whereas the difference here being is with Formula 1 fans specifically. Like I remember when the news dropped about Las Vegas. Why is that hard to say for me? Las Vegas, right? The GP. And originally this was great news, was it? Was it not? You know, everyone was gassed. I know mainly the drivers were pushing that, but like everyone was happy. Oh my god, it's gonna look so sick going down the strip. And as we got closer and closer to it, it was just miserable people. And I don't mind dunking on something and calling it shit after we watch it and it's shit. But it's like we haven't seen it yet. I thought this was meant to be good news, but like F1 fans, I don't know, they're quick to like digest any kind of news as just, oh, this is awful and bad and the worst thing ever. So Cloud Wine, because you should be on cloud, because like there is no good news basically, and people love to whine. And I like clouds. I like the word Cloud 9. It would be better if I was more of a sassy individual and I had like wine here and I could sip it while spilling the news. It would actually make more sense actually than what the loose thing I just tried to say. But I don't like wine, so maybe I'll just drink apple juice and pretend it's wine. But now I've said that, does it make a difference? I don't know. Maybe I could say grapes because that's close to wine. I don't know. Do you want the good news or the bad news? You'll complain either way. So I'll just let you know what it all is. Hamilton's antics isn't really news. I remember I was saying this already. It was a TikTok, but Hamilton's skydiving, because he does that in the off season. I guess that's when he's allowed to. In my mind, he shouldn't be allowed to ever. If I was Mercedes, because like the risk of losing Hamilton, and when I say lose, I mean, you know, him breaking due to fall damage from jumping out of a plane. And not just jumping out of a plane, but he does it multiple times in the day when he goes. And now he's at a point where he doesn't have to have an instructor. He's jumping out on his own. And now he's doing stunts. You're meant to be in Mercedes, Hamilton, not a Red Bull, doing stunts. No, but he's literally, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's next on the agenda. The whole edge of the earth thing when the guy jumped freefalled from basically in space. Like, he's pulling off things like that. That would scare me. Because there's no returns policy, there's no like buy one, break damage yours insurance thing, we'll send you a new one in the post. Is that there's no new one. You got George Russell and we just saw the season he had. So don't break it. I don't know why. In other sports it's like, they don't want the footballers or whatever even like playing other sports or even playing more football in their free time in case they roll their ankle for the weekend. That's why everyone's just playing golf. In Formula 1, jump out the plane, no one cares. Literally, before you pull your parachute, you are literally falling to your death. It's like, it's a risk to it and I know there's probably not that many people who even get injured from it, I guess, but like, it's just something about it where like it's not even like a risk factor thing. It's like you are literally doing something. You're literally killing yourself and then being like, haha, got you in last minute. I won't. And it's like, but just constantly doing it. You know? It's crazy. That's not really news, but what is news is the Spain track actually. It's no longer at Catalonia. It's no longer in Barcelona. Barcelona. It's now I was in Madrid, and not only is it in Madrid, by the way, it's in Madrid. I really need water, by the way. I'm just gonna struggle here. It's in Madrid for the next 10 years. I don't understand why Formula One has to like. I'm all for having new races and stuff, but why do we just blindly sign up to things? Like, do we not read the small print? Does the FIA know it's for 10 years? Because they just sign on to stuff for like 10 years, and it could be awful. It's like Married at First Sight. Like, we're just showing up, right? We're behind the wall. We got a hand up pressed against the wall. We're on one knee saying I love you and whatever. I don't care what she looks like. And then they walk out on the thing for the first time and they're like, "Ee." And it's like when they were stuck here, you know, we were married. At least in Married at First Sight, I don't think it's like a real marriage type thing. Really, see, they don't even have to get divorced. But even if they did, there's a way out. I don't know if there's a way out of these things, because it's like if this ever, I mean, Catalonia wasn't that fun to begin with. I know it's like a sleeper hit for some people, but like, and also if we're gonna switch it and we're gonna switch some races out and get some new ones in, can we actually get something different? I know Hamilton's been saying it and stuff, but like a track in Africa, you know, let's actually go the world here. I know there's probably reasons for that, and if it was going to be in a country, it would have to be probably South Africa. I don't imagine there's many racetracks, just like, even through like, I don't know, like Nigeria or something. There'd probably be like Egypt. I mean, a racetrack near with the pyramids somewhere in the background would be pretty cool. I feel like South Africa is the only place that actually has already like purpose-built racetracks and stuff. And if you went anywhere else in Africa, it'd purely be more like an exposure thing in terms, well, a view thing in terms of what landmark, what cool thing can we get in the background. Because that's my whole thing with like wanting to race and like, well, I'm not racing, but you know what I mean. I want to see them race like around London. Like the streets are quite wide, like around Buckingham Palace, like to see like some kind of landmarks in the background. Same with, I feel like Manhattan, or at least a track with that skyline in the back of New York would be cool. It's like I actually don't have a problem with races in America, but it's like I just feel like Miami. I don't know if I get much from that. Texas is a cool vibe, but I just feel like I need more than Texas. And Las Vegas obviously is offering up that whole strip thing, right? Miami, it feels like it's more about what's happening outside of the race, you know. And you could argue that's with Vegas as well. It's like what's happening outside the race, you know, what's happening. But at least the race is a bit of a spectacle. Whereas I know there's history in it for people who've watched this sport for a while, but moving from like that part of Spain to that part of Spain, I can't tell you I actually care. A lot of people do though. What I will say though is I wasn't a massive fan of Catalonia. I mean, they changed. Was it actually decent this year? Was it this year where they changed that final chicane thing and it kind of worked? Because I remember the chicane was just so dead for me. It was one of those ones where you catch the whole lap, you catch the whole lap, you catch the whole lap. You get to the final chicane, you didn't nail it, start again, type thing. I'm kind of got a blocked nose right now. I'm struggling to speak. Yeah. This is weird. I don't really know what's happening, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that's another thing. Obviously, a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people were complaining about that. I'm not sure, definitely, but I think a lot of people were complaining about that. So I guess that fits into Cloud Wine, doesn't it? Just hit written down here. I had Logan resigns, and I thought, what? You know, that can't be right. It says Logan resigns. You know, close wording, but you don't want to mix those up. And definitely Logan doesn't mix those up. A lot of people were relating it to a scene from The Office US, which I've never seen, but a lot of people I feel like it's very popular. I know it's like maybe a Gen Z thing in general, but like relate everything to The Office. Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you know, the similarities in the real life and the meme of whatever Office meme it is actually there. And I would say this is one of them actually. The handshake between Logan Sargent and is his name James Vowles? The boring, like honestly, I can tell he's probably like one of the smarter guys in that. Well, they're all obviously smart, but like he presents smartness in a more in a more tradition, in a more like, you know, as seen before way that we usually, you know, understand smartness. And maybe someone like a Bonotto, who I know is not there anymore, but like James Brown just kind of has that about him. But he's also just so boring whenever he's speaking. And it's just like, get Zach Brown on the radio or something like that. Yes, get, you know. He just doesn't do it for me. But yeah, that kind of whole like awkward handshake thing. He's here for another year. It actually wasn't just fake nonsense about the whole we believe in Logan. It's a project. I mean, to a certain extent, I respect the fact that they're giving someone a chance. And not just because I'm not sure how he is when it comes to sponsorships and stuff. So I don't know if he's a paid driver. I've not heard that, so I don't think he is. But not just because his last name's Schumacher or he gets an extra season for that reason, or because he gets an extra season because he's Mazepin and he has that much money, but just because they genuinely believe in something's there and that they've just not seen it as much as they'd like to this season, but they do believe something is there, and then you're getting another year for that. I appreciate that. I do like the whole aspect of this is a cutthroat sport, and you got to be able to hack it on day one, or you might be out on day two. Like, I do quite like that as well, and the unfairness of the sport is actually kind of nice. It's a cruel mistress, but I don't mind seeing this side of it. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if the test, the experiment works or fails. But sometimes people on Twitter, everything, oh my god, this is just like The Office. Like, all it will take, Charles Leclerc, he's on the podium, he takes his trophy, he looks at the camera for like a split second. And, oh my god, this is just like The Office. Oh my god, this is literally like a scene at The Office. This is like literally like a scene at The Office right now. And it's like, is it though? I feel like we're full snippet. It's not that. This isn't that Office-y. And also, there's multiple shows that do the whole mockumentary thing. Anyway, there was also a bunch of stuff which I'm not gonna talk about. I'm gonna skip over all of this, but like, there was like a whole thing into Susie Wolf or whatever, Toto Wolf and Susie Wolf like exchanging information on something or something to do with like Driver Academy or like stuff like that, and it's like, you're meant to do that, and it was like a bunch of people was accusing her of this, and she was like, no, don't do that, I'm reputable. And then every single person, like team in F1 was like, we stand with Susie Wolf, we never called her out for nothing. And it's like, well, who's lying then? Because everyone's saying, like, I saw a meme, I felt like this was a 13 Reasons Why meme, but it was like a poster, and it was like, one of us isn't telling the truth, because it's like, she got called out for like doing something, presumably by like one of the F1 teams, right? And the FAA is like, we're gonna look into this. And then everyone was like, not I. And then everyone's like, so what the hell? Fuck you, FIA. And they're like, well, but we can't say, but somebody stepped forward and said this thing. And now all of a sudden no one said it because they saw the backlash or whatever, and they didn't want to get a look about them or something. So that was weird. I don't even really know what it was about. And I did try to find the information, but I'll just be honest, either the information was just very boring, and therefore I didn't read it and I just glazed over it, or like it was just nowhere to be found. All you could find was just non-stop, too long like paragraphs from like teams or individuals saying, I reject these claims and stuff like that, and just this and that. And it's like, but what are you rejecting? What even actually happened? It turns out it was nothing really juicy anyway. There was no. In my mind, it's like, who did a dodgy tweet in 2011? That's what I thought was going on here, but it was like nothing really like that. And then the other thing was the driver damage rankings for the year, which was like largely predictable or like made sense. Like, the top three was Logan Sargent. Makes sense, and basically you don't want to be on the top of these lists because obviously damage rankings means you're crashing the car a lot. I mean, that's the way I see it. There's maybe other ways you're damaging the car which aren't your fault. Like, for example, Carlos Sainz is second, which to me doesn't automatically like jump out as to like many crashes or whatever. But like, for example, the drain pipe thing in Las Vegas, does that count towards your damage? Obviously, that wasn't his fault, so stuff like that can happen. Sergio Perez third, that makes complete sense. He's not terribly close to Sargent, but he's probably two. Here's the thing about Perez though, is he's third on this list, you know, and you could argue he's second on this list if like a large reason why Sainz is there, for example, is because of the water drain pipe thing, right? I don't know. I feel like I didn't say drain pipe last time. I said a different word, and whatever that wasn't right. But drain pipe. I think I said manhole. Maybe that's also right. I don't know, but manhole just sounds a little bit more suggestive. But yeah, no. Basically, it's less that you're like, okay, you're the only person with more damage than you is Sargent, but also the fact that your teammate is last on this list, and basically last is being first. So is it again just a big old? I don't know what the damage would have looked like. It probably would have been quite high because I remember him crashing a lot between Albon and Perez. Because that's another thing actually that we can go over after I've done this. Actually, basically, the only thing that surprised me here was that Russell was second lowest. That just surprised me. But, you know, sure. And Bottas was third lowest. But with Bottas, he could have been in the top three or the bottom three. It wouldn't have surprised me. Because I don't know what Alfa Romeo does throughout the season. I pay no attention to it. But yeah, oh no, I've actually forgotten it. The Perez thing. Albon went on a podcast, high performance podcast. And he was talking about his time at Red Bull. And he had a moment where he kind of like, you know, he was talking his shit. He was kind of saying, it was a tough time, and yeah, I was making mistakes, and I wasn't at my best, but I was better than who came before me, and I was better than who came after me. And it was basically saying, I was in a car that was fighting for P4, P3, and I was landing, you know, maybe P9 sometimes. That's the worst thing in the world. You're in a Red Bull, you're against Max, you're finishing P9, you're fucking shite. Whereas Max was in a rocket ship, going P1, and Perez was finishing maybe P4, pushing for podiums. He looks like a bit more of a hero. He gets more hero moments. But the actual difference between the two drivers, being Perez and Max, was actually bigger than the speed difference between Albon and Max. But simply because they was in a worse car. If you're like 4/10 off your teammate who's mid-table, then you're bad. And if you're 6/10 off your teammate who's at the top, but your car's quicker, and you're in third or fourth, you don't look as bad. You can drive through the pack more. You can, whatever. I get what he's saying. I'm not going to check the stats myself. I'm assuming he wouldn't say that if he didn't actually have the right research. So I'll take that as the truth. And I rate it. I rate what he's saying. He's putting himself out there. And I'm not actually surprised that that's the case. Some people were saying, oh my god, Max is so big. Max is actually bigger than the sport. The fact that Max Verstappen is who all the drivers compare themselves to. Like, all the drivers are arguing about not even who's the quickest or who's the best, but just how close they are to Max, and making this whole like a thing about how Max is just that good. And it's like, I mean, the obvious thing in the room here is that they're all Max's teammates who are all being judged on whether they keep their seat, basically depending on how close they are to Max. So yeah, it makes sense that Perez and Albon and Gasly would all compare themselves to each other by comparing themselves to how close they are to Max. They're then at the time teammate, you know? Because like that's the only thing you really can compare yourselves to when you're in the quickest car, and that's the only car that's the same as yours. Like, if Carlos was arguing that he's better than, you know, whoever else because he was this close to Max, then fine, then your point makes sense. But in this scenario, so we don't have to turn this into a Max thing. There's a couple good sound bites from that podcast with on the high performance from Albon. It's just, he's one of those people where it's interesting to hear him talk, because you actually wonder what he actually thinks. And sometimes when he's not joking around with Russell, or he's not just like doing his thing in a Williams at the back, but just hear what he actually, you know, because he actually has an interest. Like, I like Norris and stuff. Don't get me wrong, he's one of my favourites. But a podcast of him is far less interesting. Like, just like on the paper aspect of it, in terms of like the come up story. Like Norris has kind of won all the stuff. He's always been really good. He has more of a privileged background, which can throw up like more like his own struggles that can be spoken about on a podcast. But in terms of like Albon, it's like the ups and the downs, the dropped by this team, and then the family issues, and then like all of this stuff, and even in once he got to the sport, it was like Norris gets to the sport, and from there it was pretty plain sailing. Like he's had little moments here and there, doubts and stuff like that. But Albon, it's like you get the opportunity, you get to the sport, and then you get promoted here, and then you get sat there, and you get demoted there, and then you're out of sport here, and then you're running up here, and it's like it's just a lot more things you can get from an Albon podcast. He's probably one of the best people on the grid you could do a podcast with, I think, especially for his age, all things considered. But yeah, this was Cloud Wine. We're on Cloud Wine. That was the good news, bad news, all bad news by the definition of this podcast. We're still ironing out the slogans, as you can see. And I guess it'll just be a weekly thing talking about F1 news. Hopefully that doesn't dry up at any point, but I don't think it will. I think it'll keep getting spicy, and I think there'll be things always happening. Obviously, there's not been much movement. The lineups for next year are pretty much set in stone, and there's barely been any changes, which I think actually sets up a big 2024 or whatever in terms of people moving. Because there's a lot of people who have been given chances who are only going to get 1 year. A lot of people who have been given chances who have had a year now. And it's like, for example, you look at like, there could be movement with someone like a Ricardo. There could be there could be movement with his seat. There could be movement with Sargent, obviously. Magnussen, I feel like there could be movement. Who else do you reckon? I don't know about Sainz. If you feel like that, maybe they get bored of Sainz, they want Albon. I don't know. I've heard a couple of rummies about that one. There could be movement with Perez. That's obviously another obvious one. Could there be movement with Lewis? Maybe that's one you want to chuck in there. Movement with Stroll. Maybe he's finding the end of his time. I feel there's a lot of people who are maybe just like at the Ricardo more so being like maybe he could get a Red Bull. I don't know. That's like a one more out there, but like. Well, I mean, there's maybe a lot of people who are being given second chances, third chances right now at the end of a rope. If you're Stroll, 9th chances, how many seasons he's been here, and they're at the end of something, it's like, okay, now it's really bubbling over, and next season, I feel like there'll be a lot of, musical chairs. But yeah, cards on, Cloud Wine. See you next week.